And it's Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, talking business from my home office in White Plains, New York, another installment of our series talking with leaders in the field of banking, insurance, customer service, digital marketing, and today travel. And this is on behalf of our company based in Harrison, New York, that has provided insurance-backed benefits to the credit card industry for over 30 years, and our customer service management team doing a great job taking care of our clients and their customers during this COVID crisis. Now, very glad to be able to introduce to everyone Shashank Nigam, who is the CEO of Simpliflying. Shashank, good to see you. Tell us a little bit about your company and how you got into travel.
Sure. Thank you, Ken. It's a pleasure to be joining you on this session. I'm Shashank. I'm the CEO of a company called Simpliflying, which has been around a decade, and we've worked with about 100 airlines and airports around the world, specifically on their commercial strategy, from marketing to brand to digital to crisis communications as well. I'm the author of a book called SOAR, as you can see, just a quick plug, which features the best lessons from airlines around the world in marketing for any industry. So, be it an insurance broker or a cable television guy who would want to learn from what airlines do to compete and stay ahead. The COVID crisis, of course, has impacted aviation more than almost any other industry. So we've spent the last 8 weeks trying to help as many airlines as possible get through this crisis and basically prepare for the future, which is where I believe you found us.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned just having recently flown back from India during this period. What was that experience like for you?
Yes, indeed. Less than a week ago, I was on a repatriation flight from India, where we were stuck with our family, back to Canada, where I live. We traveled across 4 international airports on 3 different flight legs on 2 different airlines. So flying during COVID was very different from flying before COVID, especially with 2 little toddlers that I have. So let's just say it was an adventure in trying to keep masks on for more than 10 minutes on the little girls, to trying to sanitize everything from trolley handles to in-flight screens to lavatory handles to their own hands. And the vigilance, the increased vigilance took such a toll for 20 hours of flying that I don't think I'm flying with the little kids for the next few months, because anyone who says there's going to be a new normal we have to be ready for does not have little kids.
Yeah, that's another level of complexity, trying to keep a mask on a child or a toddler on a long flight like that.
Yep.
It's a real challenge for parents. Now, so just also, how did you get a background in this field of aviation and travel?
I actually have a background in technology. I went to Carnegie Mellon and then was working for an MIT startup in Boston. But I used to like planes a lot. I believe I have jet fuel in my veins, and I wanted to do something in aviation. So in 2008, I left my job in Boston and I started up Simpliflying, initially as a blog at the intersection of technology, aviation, and branding. And then the blog grew, and so did a consulting business out of it. And it's been a ride of a lifetime, where we've been honored and humbled to have worked with really large airlines like Lufthansa and Emirates and Singapore Airlines and Southwest, which are featured in my book as well, to really small ones like Estonian Air and Pluna in Uruguay and SpiceJet in India, in becoming dominant players in their own local markets. And it's been a hell of a journey.
Well, that's remarkable that you built a business that's 10 years standing out of a base of a blog. That says a lot to you, what you've been able to accomplish. Now, we saw a very forward-thinking article that you published, actually on LinkedIn and your sites last week, called "The Rise of Sanitized Flying," and you go through the whole customer experience from arriving at the airport to check-in and boarding. And tell us about, why don't you take us through some of the steps that you thought out as far as what airlines are going to need to do to open up again?
Absolutely. I mean, in our work over the last decade with a lot of airlines, we've designed a number of customer journey maps. But we thought, hey, what if we reimagine this with the post-corona virus travel in mind? How would it look different if people want to feel, that they're cared for and that the airlines are clean and their safety is taken care of, the environment has sanitation as a priority? What would change? So we have everything from disinfection tunnels before you enter the airport. So just the curbside. Imagine the gate before it opens, the sliding doors. There's a little tunnel that you go through, which sprays you with invisible droplets that makes sure that you're clean. So everyone inside the airport is disinfected to begin with. And then you go to your check-in counter or your bag drop, and all the kiosks are touchless. Not touch screens, but touchless, because nobody wants to touch anything other than their own device. So you might be able to control your bag drop using your own device, and print your bag tag using the printer, just connecting your phone via Bluetooth. United is already piloting such a technology. And then you go further and you receive a boarding pass, but at that time your temperature is taken. You might even receive a lung scan that they're contemplating in Singapore, which will do full vision of what's happening. In Dubai, if you're departing, they're doing COVID-19 tests. They'll take a blood drop and see if you have antibodies. I'm not sure if I want to be poked every single time I'm flying, but that's what they're doing. And in Vienna, for arriving passengers, there's a €190 or $210 test where you can get COVID tested and avoid the quarantine for 2 weeks, for example. So testing will take place in some way, form, or the other at many international airports. I'm not saying that it will be there for domestic US travel, but it will be a reality when you travel internationally. And then you go further and you would have by this time be wearing masks and gloves, if not for definitely masks. And when you drop your bag will be sanitized. What that means is it will go through a deep, intense UV disinfection process or a fogging process. And once that's done, there'll be a sticker placed on it to confirm that it's been done. It's gone through that process before it enters the baggage system. So every single bag going in.
How will they combine that with normal screening, where normally if they will go through bags and you have to take computers out? And,
so this is for the check bag. This is for the check bag. So when you drop your check bag, this is just at that point where you're not taking anything out. It's just going through. When you go further to security, which is what you're referring to, security would be different as well, because I believe it was somewhere in the US where a TSA agent had COVID and he was spreading it by touching the tray and the bins. So the bins need to be disinfected every single time they come through. And whatever you put inside, so your computer, you take out your laptop, your carry-on bags, as they go through the bin, they just go through a UV disinfection process, or maybe fogging, thermal fogging in some cases. And when they come out at the other end, everything's disinfected. So it's clean, cleaner, cleanest. That's what's going to happen. And then you go further to the boarding gate. And guess what? Boarding process is going to be very different. No longer will you stand in a tight, crowded space and line up forever because of social distancing. We all know that, right? So you're likely to get a personalized notification when 23D is about to board, and it would say, Mr. Ken, please come on board now. It's your turn to board. And that's when you walk up to the gate agent, show a pass, and then go through, as opposed to lining up in a crowded thing. I think that's going to improve the experience at the boarding gate. As opposed to boarding groups, there'll be individual boarding notifications on the phone. You might be able to order some meals through a touchless vending machine, which is serving the same in-flight meal you might have received on the plane, but you can now carry it just by tapping your phone and getting the meal and bring it on board. And maybe it's the airline that's working with the airport to do that. Finally, when you get on board, you will go through a disinfection once again in the jet bridge, sprayed with little stuff while you're standing in there, so that everyone coming to the plane is now clean.
Wow, that's a lot. When you describe that, it's one thing if it's not a busy day. It's another thing if it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, or on Monday where business travelers are all getting on flights to go on work weeks. Can that kind of system handle volume of traffic?
So some aspects, yes, some aspects, not so much. Like for UV disinfection of bags, you just have to attach the scanner on exactly where the X-ray machine entrance is. It is no additional time. It just goes through and gets disinfected. Nothing additional needed. But then ensuring people are wearing masks or taking temperatures, that will take time. And I believe there'll be two stages. There'll be red zones or red alert zones like New York or Washington State, where this will continue to happen. And then there'll be green zones or orange zones where maybe a temperature scanner is not needed. Let's say in the middle of Iowa or in Minnesota, where the rates are not so high. You may not need to do that. So the airport or airline can decide what is to be done for a specific region or for a specific route, even. In fact, what I've just shared is just the airport experience. When you get inside the plane,
Right.
Imagine being welcomed by a flight attendant wearing a mask. And as you take your seat, you see another one standing next to you, and she's not a flight attendant. She's an in-flight janitor whose sole job on a long-haul flight from JFK to Tokyo Narita is to ensure that the lavatories are clean, that the high-touch areas are clean, because the regular crew may not be able to do that. So the in-flight janitor, which already exists, by the way, on flights like Emirates to clean their showers, may be a common thing, just like air marshals were common after 9/11. You might see, when you take a seat, that you see a safety and sanitation video, not just a safety video, showing you how to wash your hands and how to open the toilet door using a napkin rather than your own hands, and how to make sure your mask is fine and things like that. So things are going to be different, and they're going to evolve to prioritize sanitation, just like safety was prioritized after 9/11.
Certainly. Now, what do you think about seating? Is it going to be normal? I mean, most flights we've experienced the last few years have been high density numbers
Yeah,
of people. Are the airlines going to, how many seats on a plane are they going to sell? Are they going to leave any seats empty?
well, we all know airlines don't make a lot of money usually. Airlines make no money if less than 60% of the plane is full. So if airlines are to leave 62% of the seats full, which is what it will be if the middle seat is blocked, no airline in the world is going to make money. So in the long term and even medium term, it is not economically feasible for airlines to leave the middle seat empty. Secondly, there is no scientific study right now saying that leaving the middle seat empty is going to reduce the chances of infection if you sneeze and infect the guy in front of you. Because the way a sneeze or germs spread in a plane is very different from a normal place because of the filters in place, right? So this is, I would say, leaving the middle seat empty is like putting lipstick on a pig. It's purely cosmetic. It's not economically or scientifically sustainable. And it's something airlines might do while not many people are flying, sure. But it's not something you will continue seeing, 1, 2, 3 years from now on a regular basis. Because ultimately, if you're a carrier, you probably have infected 50 people at the airport before you board the plane, right? So blocking a middle seat just at that point, just because you can, is not going to help anyone. So it's a temporary thing.
Well, that's quite a statement when you say that if someone is infected and a carrier for COVID-19, that they would have infected 50 people by the time they get on a flight. That's really, when you say you offer that perspective, it means like it could be quite a while before the airlines get back in motion. Do you have any sense about when the airlines are going to try to get some limited service back?
I think they will try to put service back into place by late summer. I'm not sure how soon people will return into those service and be flocking to travel. I think we're going to see some business travel return. We're going to see some people who are away from families return. But I feel, people with young kids like me might differ. But I might still travel for business, for a business meeting, for example. So there's going to be a split depending on which country you're in, where you're flying to, and which city you're in.
I sort of remember after 9/11 when going to a meeting in Chicago, a convention in October, and it was mostly a business passenger list, I would say, on the flight. It was different for a while. Didn't seem to be too many families. It was just kind of a necessity business travel that went out. It's interesting. It sort of seems like it's the elimination of the big airplanes, the A380s and the 747s. Seem like they've all been retired. Some cases it was scheduled, but it's been expedited. It seems like it's going to be the end of the big plane era.
Let's see. Yes, in the short term, definitely, while airlines are waiting for demand to return, we'll see how business models evolve of airlines. People might prefer long and thin routes and direct flights as opposed to transiting via a hub on a large plane. But yeah, definitely right now, airlines are grounding the large planes because there is no demand.
Yeah. Now, what do you expect when passengers arrive in a city? What kind of is there going to be any new procedures there to screen them once they arrive at a new airport?
Absolutely. You will definitely go through temperature scanners in certain countries, like Singapore and Hong Kong. Hong Kong also has disinfection tunnels, by the way, in place now. But it depends totally on the country, whether it's what we're calling these travel bubbles now. So between Australia and New Zealand, there's a travel bubble that's going to be created where you can travel unrestricted without any quarantine periods. But if you're coming from New York and going to New Zealand, you will need a 2-week quarantine right now.
Wow.
For now, unless you can show that you're immunized. So we expect the creation of a THA, just like the TSA, a Transport Health Authority, to ensure that guidelines are consistent across countries, across states, so that people feel more confident of traveling and rather than dealing with inconsistencies. In conclusion, I feel just like after 9/11, people would only travel if they were assured of their safety and that there are no weapons on board. They will now only travel if they're assured there are no viruses on board. And airlines, airports, the governments need to do all they can to inspire this confidence that they're taking the measures to ensure sanitation.
Very good. Wow, it's going to be a new era. It sounds like it's going to be expensive. I mean, that's expensive for the airline industry to provide all of that types of testing and protective equipment. How do you see fares going in this period? It sounds like they'll be reasonable for a while, but the airlines are going to need to make up the money that they lost in these new expenses.
Yep, definitely. Let's just be realistic here. Airlines have no money right now to foot the bill. And the bill will be split between, let's say, the government and the regulators, and including the flying public. Just like we have a security tax on our ticket now, there might be a health tax. Just like we used to go to the security theater at the airport, there'll be a health theater as well.
And Shashank, maybe just finish up by telling us about the different services of your company and publications. And again, looks like a very interesting book on aviation that you have, SOAR.
That's right. Thank you. So yeah, we offer strategy consulting work with anyone interested in aviation, from banks. We've just worked with a very large American bank, advising them going forward what aviation is going to look like. We've got a lot of work coming in due to our report, which maps out curbside to curbside how travel is going to be different. And we're working with everyone from airline alliances to the regulators and banks, as I mentioned, on ensuring that the organizations are ready for the future of travel. So if you're a business that wants to be ready for the future of travel, please feel free to reach out. And I'm sure, Ken, you'll be sharing a link to the report as well as my book that they can download.
Will do. You've done a lot of work on this and really thought it out, what's going to happen. And it's going to be a new era. Hopefully we can travel again soon safely, and because that's really a key for cities like New York City that are big travel destinations for the convention industry, even for sports teams that want to travel. How do you see this affecting charter flights?
Charter flights might actually see a rise, especially in the short term, because people want to avoid the crowds. People want to, go private and maintain social distancing on board, which might be possible on a charter flight. So I know a lot of charter companies have seen an uptick both in cargo as well as passenger demand, and that might be here to stay for the short term.
Well, Shashank, thank you so much for joining us today at CBSI Services Talking Business. You've got a wealth of background and information, and have really thought out the impact of COVID-19 on the airline industry. Thank you for joining us today, and stay safe from where you are out in Vancouver, British Columbia. Good to talk with you today.
A pleasure speaking with you as well, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, based in Harrison, New York. Over 30 years providing travel and merchandise protection benefits, insurance back to the credit card industry and customer service management. Always a shout out to our team, which have managed our clients' business and help their customers, especially with travel necessities during this COVID-19 crisis. So for CBSI Services, this is Ken Kraetzer from my home office in White Plains, New York. Stay well and have a good day.